wash it down. I don't even know if I can get in there. Like I said, I'll be lucky if that fucking shit don't fucking go to the harbor.
When I start building our wharf's a lot higher, at least another couple feet, 3 feet. Well, lucky I never lost my traps over there in front of the shed. The wharf is getting washed up and down. So you can see here now, one of the traps all washing up on the wharf. This part of the wharf here is washing up and down, right? You can see all the gear moving. And only for those traps on there, the wharf will be washed away now. The lobster traps, 42-inch lobster pots. Look, still we lose it again.
Quite possible.
Well, same thing as claps of thunder just now up under because the water washing and hitting the floor, right? It's hard on the sheets too, because any older sheets.
You don't know if this shit's gonna go whatever like that.
Right. Well, those traps there, there's 500 traps there. There's at least $20,000 worth of gear.
I think there should have been a lot of thought gone into this stuff long before now, because I mean we're at the 11th hour.
But I think it's a matter of time that we're going to get a really high tide around here.
We're coastal communities, a lot of us, so we're facing real challenges of coastal erosion in many of our communities.
Here in our neck of the woods, it is the sea that we are concerned about most.
It's all bad enough, but now we don't have power. Lights are all out and no heat in the house. It just seems like the tide surges and everything is getting much worse.
I got some pictures here from last fall that floated up my dock here, up nearly getting close to the point where the restaurant's almost the same, as the ocean would be. So we had a big storm like that, and I was nervous about Fiona. I was watching pretty close, on all the apps and stuff and wherever I could look online. And so I felt pretty confident that we weren't going to get too much here. But I am preparing for high tides. But for here, different than what happened in Port aux Basques, I wouldn't have the sea coming in and pulling out the ground, I would just have the rise and fall. But it would be a higher rise than it is now, but it should be slower. But I'm nervous about it, yes.
Well, if it continues at the rate that I think it's coming at now, that it'll only be a matter of time, and most of our fishing sheds along the waterfront will have to be moved, or else they'll be washed out to sea, like what happened with Fiona on the southwest coast of Newfoundland. I was out there, I witnessed what happened out there in Rose Blanche and those places in Port aux Basques, and I mean, those are things that are coming, and our harbour is vulnerable too. My name is Tony Ryan. I'm a fisherman by trade, and I volunteer in a lot of organizations. I've been with the Harbour Authority since 1996 as chairperson, and I've been the mayor of Port Saunders since 1989. I've been on the water pretty much all my life, and in recent years we've noticed that, it seems like the wind is constant. When I started fishing back in the early 70s at, what I do at the shrimp, I mean, there'd be days and days and days when at the end of it, you'd be praying for a blowy day, so you better get ashore to work at the gear. You don't have to pray for one now. Because most of the time when you're fishing, it's miserable and you should be ashore. Way more windy days. And higher wind, not just a windy day. the winds are higher. I mean, there's been winds here this past fall, you know, in the 70 knot range. Something that was, as far as in my time, was never heard tell of until the past year or so.
Climate change is in every topic. My name is Colleen Kennedy, and I'm from the town of North Point, where we're here right now. And I work as Executive Director for Grossmoor Cooperating Association. It works for the benefit of parks and community, mainly around tourism, but also around community capacity and community development. You know, as you talk about tourism, I'm doing a project now, and as we're talking about tourism and tourism projects, you know, where are we going to put these projects? We're coastal communities, a lot of us, so we're facing real challenges of, you know, coastal erosion in many of our communities.
Hopefully they come up with something, because, you know, as the waters is getting higher and the waves is getting higher, I mean, all down along the beach here, I mean, you know, slowly washing the beach out and is eventually wash it the road. My name is George Plowman. I'm from Port Saunders, and I've lived most of my life in Port Saunders. I'm a fisherman for 30 years. My shed's just over there. My mom and dad lives right there. I grew up here all my life, and watched my uncle fish and neighbors, and there's just a passion that a lot of kids had and still have. A lot of guys moved away, but a lot of us stayed back and fished, and it's just something that's in our blood, I guess.
The fishery is the backbone of where we live, where I live, and where we live on this peninsula. And if there's a total collapse of the fishery, we are going to be in trouble.
Put up for security because of the weather, yeah. High tide coming and some bad forecast. So you hauled it up there before, now it's getting hauled a little bit more.
I mean, I think our government's going to have to step in and help relocate not only the sheds along the harbour, but I mean some of the houses that are in low-lying areas. At the time when they were built, the water was lots of water in the harbour. They were far enough away that they had nothing to worry about, but in those recent years, the tides have been rising so much that a lot of our houses, not only our fishing sheds, but the houses that are lying in our harbour are going to be in jeopardy of flooding and stuff like that.
We're seeing tides now that we haven't seen in a lot of years. And most of our roads now down around the waterfront have been built up over the years, you know, to prevent, you know, any washing out or whatever.
So a lot of these towns would have, you know, their water and sewer and municipal services going through under, you know, roads that are really vulnerable to, you know, wave surge and climate change. We're working with a group and talking to a group, AIM, who's working in Atlantic Canada to work with small communities on doing a plan that I guess government is going to need when you apply for infrastructure funding to take care of some of the infrastructure in your towns. Having our work done and be prepared and plan for as we move forward to move some of these services to safer waters, and as we move forward, you know, plan for a way of impact zones.
Well, we've seen it coming, yeah. Being a member of the Harbour Authority, we started back in 2000 with the height of our wharves. Boats were getting kind of up on the wharf, so in 2002 we built a new wharf, was the start of several new wharfs here in this harbour, and we raised the height of the wharf 1 metre higher than what it was normally. Well, I would say it's probably 18 inches, somewhere around there, a foot to 18 inches of high water since we started the construction of that new wharf in 2002. And as we saw in the past couple of previous years, when we had some storms and some high tides, the water was up on the wharfs, the older wharfs that we have in this harbour. I don't know what they are in other places, but from looking at this harbour here, the water has been up on the older wharfs.
You would have got it beat up.
Oh my God, yeah, you can see it, Leila. So they're making this higher because...
Yeah.
Why?
Because they're more water comes in over the wharf when it's high tide, and it just makes a lot of damage.
If we don't start moving shids back, and if we don't start putting an extra height on the wharfs that are in our area, that those wharfs are all going to be underwater.
Yes, it would be sad to see them wash away. Yes, it would. There's fishing stages or wharves, kids, whatever, that have been down on the waterfront for years and years, ever since I can remember. I mean, you know, I'm 57 years old. It's going to be sad to see them lose their shids.
Yeah, there was water there. This air was going up and down.
I guess, you know, it'd be even worse if they lost everything that they had in there. Guys with outboard motors, you know, stuff they use for fishing that they need, you know, when the spring of the year rolls around and he goes back fishing. They don't want to lose it because there's no insurance going to cover it. So I guess they do what they got to do to, you know, to trying to save what they got.
With all the crazy storms we've had, is a part of the reason why you're fixing now because of the weather?
It's a lot of reasons. Oh, yeah. A lot of reasons. The rocks let go in the front of this one and just washed in. So everybody along the shoreline here seems to be building up their wharfs higher, and it's because of, you know, the wind. When the wind blows, the waves is getting higher. I mean, it washes right up on the pavement here in some cases. Down where I'm at, so this year I built a new wharf there. I still got some work to do next year to close in my other shed there, but you know, you can't do it all in 1 year, of course. Whatever happens, you know, we gotta take it now and try to be prepared as much as we can be.
We've come up with those ideas ourselves whereby we want to get something done to help protect our coastline and the height of wharfs, stuff like that. We've done that on our own without help from anybody else. We had a coastal erosion project that we was working on for years before we got it. I guess we put a proposal forward, and the engineers came and met with us, and we sat down and talked about what we were looking for as a municipality. We're not engineers. And in 2022, the funding was announced, and in 2023, we completed a large portion of our coastal area, the outer limits to the harbour, because if we hadn't done that, within the next year or so, we would have seen about $2 to $3 million worth of infrastructure out in the harbour.
I think, you know, you have to start taking some responsibility to step up yourself and say, I have the biggest stake in this community or this region. I have the most to lose, so I have to get involved.
Colleen, the last time you and I spoke, I think was 2 years ago, we were here.
We were. We brought the 7 communities together. They've been working with this company to look at, you know, their top 3 priorities around climate change. One of the top issues definitely was coastal erosion. And you have to come together and start looking at your neighbouring community and not look at them as the competitor for funding, but as the partner in funding. And that, you know, we fix things together, we all work together and, you know, fix the roof first if that's what's got to be fixed. And this, to me, is a perfect model for the province to look at. I don't know if it's taken away some of the fear, because, you know, there's a lot can happen. We're still vulnerable. We still have to do the work. But I think that we're more ready to address some of the climate change issues ourselves that we couldn't before at all. This is where we live. Yeah, it's protected, but we also have a responsibility to protect it, and to protect it in a way that reflects who we are.
We've seen a lot of changes, certainly this year. In the short time I've been grateful to be here at Port au Choix, a lot of people from this community really can speak very honestly about the impacts of climate change.
Tide's down now about a foot back compared to what it was.
From direct observation. And I think that's something very powerful and very beautiful that people here, all people, live really close to the land and to the sea and are noticing what's happening.
Well, the water is low, you know, I could be working on that dock.
That's what we're doing. We're doing a place where.
This is your first time? First time at the crib.
Do you have electricity there? So it's 32 nights there blowing now, but it could be, there's going to be gusting 40 back tomorrow.
What we need to do for the future to keep these communities as they are and try to protect them as best we can. Well, I think I consider our harbour one of the best in Newfoundland to start with. It's a deep water port. Been very active for most of my life and before my time, involved in the fishery, the lobster fishery and the groundfish fishery, and still is active today. So I mean, I think that our harbour has great potential, and that, you know, I hope it continues.
This is like family. It's a part of who I am. You know, we do have a responsibility to ourselves to make sure these communities are what we want them to be in 20 years.
All eyes on the water. Here she is.
Good fishing, Tony?
Yeah.
Good fishing?
Oh, this is good fishing. Real good. When you stay like that.